Hey, what up? It's Paranoid Pages.
Welcome to Paranoid Pages, your portal to the thought-provoking world of underground comics out of print magazines and other rare media. We'll discover hidden gems up close and in detail to capture the magic of pictures and words combined. So, gather around, friends. This is Paranoid Pages.
Hey, just like the Reading Rainbow guy said, this is Paranoid Pages. The last time we did this was episode 12, and we went through a couple of these tarot decks with Mario here from Symbolic Studies. And we're here again today, and we're going to do another 3 of them because I had a really good time with those. And also, man, I've been learning so much from you lately, Mario, because you've been posting like astrological symbol breakdowns, but not just here's a symbol, here's what it means, but like these long, like they could almost be like little like zines on each one of these breakdowns that you've been doing, man. And just much respect to you for putting incredible information out there, and then just for spending some time with me today, man. So appreciate it, and welcome back.
Right on, man. No, thank you so much for saying that. That's awesome. I put a lot of work into those videos. Some of them I do repost like year after year during the sign, right? But I try and add more information or update the editing or something along those lines to give it, I don't know, a little new coat of paint or what have you. But I still think that a lot of the information is relevant. So that's cool. You get something out of them.
It's evergreen content, man. It's not like, at least in our lifetimes, I don't think it's ever going to become like out of date. So
that's true. Yeah.
And actually, how much new information comes out about like astrological symbolism or even like tarot? Are there like yearly revelations, or is it pretty much settled science now? Like, forgive maybe the phrase.
You know, that's a great question. I kind of feel as though it's really what your journey is sort of dictating, you know, what authors you're coming across, sort of the schools of philosophy that you're coming across and stuff. So for me personally, I mean, most of the information I'm reading is dated or old or whatever, and I prefer that kind of information. Personally, I like older texts and whatnot. So for me, I mean, I'm learning new stuff all the time, so I'll never be able to get through all of it, you know, in my lifetime. And even when I'm reading something that's not tarot based, but it's like rooted in something else, it's amazing how much I learn about the cards still. So yeah, it just goes on and on and on and on. But as far as like what's coming out nowadays with newer authors and accounts and things like that, I don't know. I mean, it seems it's like one of those things like what's old is new or what have you, you know? So I'm trying to go deep and trying to find old information and kind of make it relevant or present it to people. So I'm still excited. I'm learning stuff all the time from people.
Or someone's ready to shake up this astrology tarot market a little bit. Like, someone needs to come to the table and be like, I found a new suit that no one's ever.
Oh,
I guess there's actually a few of those, right? There's like the one that they found in Pompeii, which is based around Saturn. It's like very specific to him. There's a lot of other ones, but almost all of the conventional tarot decks seem to kind of go along the Rider-Waite style, and they just sort of tweak things a little bit here and there. And we're gonna see some of those in these decks that I picked out. So we got the Horror Tarot from Tad Alcott, and these are based on like 1970s and 80s kind of like thriller movies and stuff.
Nice.
I've also got another one, and bear with me, everyone. My camera is being kind of a jerk today. I've got a Labyrinth Tarot deck.
Nice.
This kind of got like a line of cut style in it. This one will be kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then the totally unofficial Adventure Time Tarot deck by Catherine Hillier. So do you have a preference out of these 3? Which one is like speaking to you? That's how you would pick a tarot card, right? Face down.
Yeah, you know, I would say for me personally, the 2 on the left speak to me more. The Labyrinth I'm kind of curious about just because it's such an awesome movie. It's encoded with so much interesting symbolism. I haven't seen it in a while, but the last time I did see it, I was really blown away with what I was coming across. Like, that's a whole deep dive.
Let's start with that one and see how far we get.
Okay, cool.
So we might not get to all 3, but we're definitely gonna look at the ones that pique our interest. So
definitely. And you know, one of the things we could do too, I don't know if they're organized or shuffled or whatever.
We're gonna find out.
Look at the major arcana
I got
cards.
no idea.
Okay, gotcha.
So let's just see. This one didn't have any sort of like guide or instruction manual or anything. If anyone cares about the actual like logistics of this, it's just in the little box. And let's see, is it shuffled? Usually you would see like the face cards pop up first if it were shuffled. And there's
Right.
that classic camera magic doing its thing.
Yeah.
So we've got face Empress, Emperor. So it does seem like they are in some sort of an order.
Yeah, those are the major arcana cards, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think last time what we were doing was instead of going through every single card and being like, Mario, explain this, it was just stop me when we hit on one that seems particularly interesting, and then we can like maybe dive into the symbolism of it a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. Sounds good. So feel free and shuffle through, and then I'll let you know if we can make it through.
If we can, well, we're gonna do our best.
Yeah.
I have another setup for the next time we do this. We've got Emperor. One of my
maybe
favorite characters.
let's see the Hierophant for a second here. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Oh yeah, right. He has the bug spray or whatever. Oh, catching fairies, right? Yeah,
Correct.
like I
He's
said,
got
I
one
haven't
in
seen
his
this in
hand
a
right
while.
here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The Hierophant. Okay. I mean, the Hierophant really relates to being a bridge, a symbolic bridge between like the people and God. That's what the Pope represents, right? The Pontifex Maximus means the ultimate bridge builder. And so it's like you have to go through him to get through this little passageway. That's kind of what they're implying here. So that's kind of interesting. Generally, the Hierophant is sitting, but he's standing. But I just wanted to get a closer look, see what's going on there.
He is very short, so maybe sitting would have just been like putting a hat on top of a hat, right?
There you go. Yeah, good point. Oh, the dancers. Okay, so
dancers.
the dancers instead of the lovers, right? Okay, I can see that making sense.
There's a few in here too that do that, where you'll probably pick on it a lot easier than I will. Where, for example, one of the suits I believe is like the junk suit instead of clubs or hearts or whatever it originally was, or cups. So you'll probably be able to pick that out.
Totally.
Probably my absolute favorite character in the entire Labyrinth series is this little fox dude that just rides a big dog.
Totally. That's a great idea. I like that for the chariot. For sure.
And the little fart river behind him.
Right. Oh, interesting. For strength, yeah. So, am I cutting out now? Okay, I think
You
I'm
seem
back.
fine.
All right. So for strength, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, generally there's usually two figures, right? It's a woman and a lion, or I have other decks where it's like a woman and like a bear or something like that. So that's kind of curious. I mean, just for like brute strength, I can see why they chose this one. It's a bit of a departure. They are including that infinity glyph right there on the axe. That's kind of interesting. That's usually a classic sort of thing for the strength card.
And the nipple piercings, is that typical to the strength card?
Oh, absolutely. That's the tradition for sure.
It all starts from that.
Right.
Hermit.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. I mean, kind of classic in a way. The basic symbolism, right? It's usually a guy with a staff and then the lantern and everything else. So I could see why they would turn this into the Hermit.
Kind of like a Diogenes sort of vibe to him.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's a great idea for the Labyrinth, the Wheel of Fortune. Which way are you going to go? I'm actually gearing up to do a Wheel of Fortune presentation for Patreon. So I have a whole presentation I built out. So I've been thinking about the wheel quite a bit. But this is an interesting sort of idea, not literally showing a wheel, but showing these different directions you can go in. And then obviously that's the whole entire thing with the Labyrinth too, right? These tiles are flipping over and the arrows are like turning around and things like that. So I like that take. That's cool.
Well, on that note, the scene in the Labyrinth is kind of implies that you can't trust the direction. If you see an arrow pointing a certain way, that doesn't actually mean that that's the right way. If you know about this dynamic in the regular Wheel of Fortune, is that sort of the same? Because I guess my layman's interpretation is that you want to be where the axle's at. You want to be in the middle of the Wheel of Fortune, because then you can kind of see what the orientation is. And if you don't have that particular vantage point, then you're always going to be thrown off a little bit and you won't really know which direction to go in.
Thomas, dude, that is an excellent point. That's exactly what I'm driving home in my presentation. The hub of the wheel, the axle of the wheel, the symbolism of the middle of the wheel. So I could see why they would include this or make this the Wheel of Fortune card, because a lot of people's interpretation of the wheel has to do with luck. So like Lady Luck, as an example, has to deal with kind of like fate and destiny and things like that. And so there is an element of chance, right? I'm almost thinking too of like those games where you like spin a wheel and you don't know where you're going to end up, right?
Yeah,
So there
roulette.
is, right. So there is something related to that. So I could see why they would, you know, make this the card.
Justice, the hands, creepiest
Oh,
scene in the
wow.
movie by far.
Oh yeah, that resonated so strongly with me as a kid. Justice with the hands. Wow. I mean, that I might have to think about this one a little bit longer. I mean, traditionally, the Justice card, as it relates to hand symbolism, Lady Justice is always holding a sword in one hand, upright, and then she's holding scales in the other hand, right? And so, so it makes me think of that. But they're usually like with this scene, they're falling, if I'm not mistaken, right? And the hands are making faces, and it's really creepy and everything else. So I can't remember. I'm sure if I saw the scene, probably more things would definitely come to mind with that.
I think they can almost put you in any direction that they want to send you in these little hands. And yeah,
Right.
and just as a side note, this reminds me a lot. If you like that scene in Labyrinth where the hands are like forming these weird mouths and talking, there's something very similar in Return to Oz, which is definitely a very occult movie. That
Mm,
has something with like little rock creatures. Little rocks will come out of the wall and do almost exactly what these hands do in Labyrinth.
gotcha. I've never seen Return to Oz, but the original, I mean, it's completely loaded, man. There's so much going on there. It blew my mind too when I saw it like 5 years ago again. I was floored. Oh, the hanged man. Okay, right on. Nice. I mean, yeah, generally just having a hanged person will do the job. So that's what they're doing here. I can't remember this guy's name, but I can see this
And
making
this is
sense.
literally how they find him. They find him hanging upside down, and Jennifer Connelly goes and saves him, and he becomes part of the party. Oh, this one seems to be missing what I would assume is like the most important symbolism. It's usually what, St. Peter's cross, or it's the guy that's literally hanging upside down, and he's got one leg
Hmm.
folded, and
Yeah.
like that specific posture is lost a little bit in this adaptation, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, it is. Definitely. They could have added a halo, you know, or something around the head too. So the hangman, I always think of the dying god myth. So you know, the god who dies on a cross or is hung from a tree like Odin or something like that, that struggle, it forces them to have internal insights. And so I think that gets them to the next level, you know. So it's actually a blessing in disguise.
I'm curious, when we see like these movie adaptations and like cartoon versions of these decks, is there anything lost in it? Like if you were to use this to make a decision, or I don't want to say tell a fortune, that's kind of reductive. If you were using this as an actual tarot deck, do you think that it has any more or less potency that it might be themed along like a silly movie or TV show?
That's a great question. I mean, to me, I use the tarot as like a book to study personally, and so that is a lot of the value that I get out of tarot decks. And so for that reason, I tend to prefer more classic decks and everything else. And so I do think that there is something missing. If you're using it for divination purposes, I would say, you know, if it works for you, it works for you. So if you're happy with it and you think you're getting insights from it, then that's great. But if you're studying the symbolism of it, I would say that definitely there are things that are missing for
Right,
sure.
because maybe you'd be putting together more like if this were the correct posture that you expect from the hangman, you might be making another connection in the back of your head that you're not going to make now that you
Exactly.
see like one of these versions.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
You got fate,
Oh, fate. Okay,
the
so this
little
would actually be the
pirate
death
dude.
card. Interesting. Well, you know, death oftentimes is squatting or sitting down. And so he's sitting down here, but oftentimes he's like squatting on like a pedestal or something along those lines. It does remind me kind of like the plague mask or something. I can't remember this figure in the movie. But obviously they have a skull on the hat there and everything else. Oh, and he's begging too. Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's kind of a curious detail that's going on. But otherwise, yeah, it's a clear departure from traditional death cards. But it does have a scorpionic sort of thing. Scorpio relates to the death card. Scorpio, the three emanations of Scorpio would be the scorpion, the serpent, and then the eagle or phoenix. And so there is this bird dynamic going on here. So that's kind of interesting.
What does the sitting aspect have to do with this? Is this because it's like towards the twilight of your life and you're like tired and you can't stand, or is there something more?
Well, I would say that that's definitely part of it. But I would say that squatting is like a primordial posture. And so it's bringing you down closer to earth. Squatting, I actually did a post on it. Squatting is how some cultures they give birth while squatting. And so the birth canal is actually more open while squatting. And then also too, like in a lot of countries, that's how people just like sit in the street and everything else. So in like the more Western world, the modern Western world, we're sitting in chairs and couches and things like that. But there's a whole entire thing with like squatting too that's retained in like some paintings of the devil. Some classic paintings of demons and devils and things like that, they're squatting. So I think that's kind of curious to go to the bathroom too, right? So it just reminds me of like
squatty
the
potty.
bowels of hell.
What was that? That's interesting. Yeah, known as the squatty potty, the little
the
thing
squatty potty. Yeah, exactly. So there's just like it's implying, I think your lower nature is more on display when you're squatting. Right? That's
I like that. Yeah, you're closer to the material realm when you're doing that, quite literally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Temperance. These are the two door knockers.
Oh, interesting. Huh, temperance. Yeah, to me, I mean, that this is an example, I would say personally, of maybe some of the symbolism being lost of what's traditional. Traditionally, you're gonna have an angel. She's gonna have two chalices, two cups, and she's pouring from one to the other. There's all sorts of interesting symbolism with water as well, because one foot generally is like in a body of water, the other foot's outside of it. There's usually like twin mountains in the back. So, I mean, symbolically, I see this as like a major departure. I'd be curious to know, the people who created the deck, like what they were kind of going for with this one. But it is a doorway. Temperance has a lot of alchemical symbolism. It's probably the most alchemical card in the major arcana, I would say. And I'm not necessarily picking that up from the artwork here.
Yeah,
but I do love these guys. These guys are burned in my memory too from childhood.
Well, the closest connection might just be there's two of them, which would like maybe the two knockers or the two cups or something. Who knows? Mm-hmm. We're not here to make excuses for the designers.
No. Yeah.
All right, see. Let me pull up the second one here. Here we've got the demon. This is like the weird like psychedelic music video portion of the movie.
Right. Definitely. Okay, the demon, also the devil card. Right, he's squatting. Yeah, so that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, but the other card was death, but they called it fate. Okay, right. So there you go, the squatting position. That makes a lot of sense. There's always two people generally that are kind of subordinate to the devil, so they have those two masks, right? So looks like fire and brimstone or of some kind. He has a pedestal or he has like a little bridge that he's on, so he's elevated. So that makes sense.
Tower,
kind of a traditional tower setup.
You got the little guy jumping out the window, which
okay,
is
right on. Also... That's what I was going to see if they retain that. Yeah, pretty standard here.
What is this? The star.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool. The reason why I think it's cool is because, okay, so they deviated a little bit from what I was going to mention. So generally the star is surrounded by 7 stars. Here it looks as though it's surrounded by 8 stars. And I actually just made a post about it today that my sort of claim is that the star in question is none other than the pole star. It's the North Star. And you can say too, this card is interesting. So there's an archway, right? So that would be like the top of the firmament. That would be symbolically the top of the firmament, symbolically the top of the royal arch or something like that. The pole star is properly placed on top of an arch like that, in my opinion.
Like a keystone.
The keystone exactly position. And then also, if this is the pole star, it's surrounded by Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. The 7 stars of Ursa Minor, the 7 stars of Ursa Major. the great bear and the little bear. So the fact that they had have a bear here, I think, is really interesting. And then also it kind of looks like a little pinwheel or like a ninja star, like a origami star, something like that.
Yeah.
That kind of just reminds me of the spin of heaven anyway, that all stars, they go counterclockwise around the pole star. And so so there's a few things going on here. And then also too, in the star card, you generally have a woman who's nude. She also has twin vessels, and then you see those. Yep, exactly.
So
The
those are
twin
the
vessels
boobs
right there.
These little guys are the boobs.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So this one's cool. I like this one.
Maybe they know what they're doing, because some of these decks you'll see and it's just like, oh, you just took an IP and put it on there and called it something.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. Oh, interesting. This one's intriguing. The moon. So instead of an actual moon, you have an apple. Obviously, there's the worm in it. I kind of like the bite taken from the apple, almost creating like a implied sort of crescent moon sort of thing, right? And then instead of 2 dogs or 3 dogs, you have these ravens or crows. And so generally you're going to see like twin towers, so they're retaining that. That's interesting. I might have to think about this one a bit longer, but I do like the symbolism. It's making me think, having the apple there instead of an actual moon. Is there an apple in the storyline?
There is. There's a moment when she takes a bite out of an apple and she sees this worm come out of it, and she realizes that things are not how they should be, essentially.
Ooh, well, that's cool, because I mean, the moon is so mysterious. I don't know if you have any opinions about that, but the
Not
moon,
a fan. I'm
not a fan?
anti-moon.
There's a lot of anomalous things about the moon. And as much as I've researched the moon and lunar symbolism and things like that, like I have more questions than answers about it. And a lot of people I talk to are basically in the same boat. And historically, the moon has kind of been viewed this way. And so the fact that you just mentioned kind of like what the apple represents in the storyline, I can see that relating to the moon.
I wondered too, with like the moon representing feminine energy, and we've got
Yes.
this like bite out of the apple. Maybe there's like some Eve symbolism in there or something.
No, you totally got it, dude. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. I think this
All
is
right.
also partly why the moon, you can maybe make the case that the moon is so mysterious and viewed as being malefic and all these things because of the feminine symbolism that's tied to it.
The sun. All right, this makes sense. It's the literal sun in the movie.
Right. Oh yeah, that's great. And then often the sun is the child in the sun card is on a horse, usually a white horse, usually, or at least in the Rider-Waite, he's holding like a banner, a pole with a banner on it. And then yeah, usually there are sunflowers behind him, kind of creating a wall, or there's an actual literal wall. So yeah, this makes sense.
Judgment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see the logic behind this one too. So often you have an angel above blowing a horn, and then below you have people kind of coming out of their crypts and tombs. And so there is a very direct as above, so below dynamic. What's above is coming down, it's bringing energy downward. What's below is also coming upward. And so I think that's how I see it, at least with what they're trying to go for here.
See, the world, which is the actual labyrinth at this point.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, exactly. Right. So you got like the tetramorph angels, the 4 living creatures in the corners, or the fixed signs, depending on how you look at it. And then the labyrinth, for sure. I mean, the labyrinth is a great metaphor for like the world in which we live, the reality in which we live, and kind of its illusory nature and things like that. So I see the logic in that one as well. That's cool. It's a good idea.
All right, now we're getting into the non-face cards, I guess. So we've got pots, for example, King of Pots, which I guess we'll make assumptions. Maybe that's cups. I don't know.
I'm assuming cups. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got the pot deck. We've got King. There's the Queen, the Knight,
Mm-hmm.
the Page.
Okay.
The Ace of Pots.
Nice.
I assume that's the 2 of Pots because there's 2 pots there. 3. All right. I see. Okay, they're kind of in order here.
They're taking it easy. I can see they're probably going to do this for the rest of the minor
Right.
arcana. I can't blame them either, man. I mean, it's a lot of work to create these decks.
Honestly, the last one we did on these, there was like the pot tarot, and they actually went the extra mile, man. Like, not only would they have, like 6 or 7 bowls or bongs or whatever it was, but it seemed like they were incorporating all the other symbolism, like despite it just being numerical.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember that. Okay, awesome. So yeah, this would be the air suit or swords.
Yeah, you beat me to it. Yeah, you taught me that last time, that usually if you see birds or anything air related, that usually has to do with the swords or anything sharp even.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see here.
And this one's cool too, because we do have I've been hearing a lot of owls lately, and so was hearing them hooting last night.
Queen of Feathers, I assume that's the fairy that's getting, one of the fairies that gets sprayed at the beginning. Knight of Feathers, Page of Feathers,
gotcha.
Ace, and then we're gonna phone it in just a little bit. We're just gonna throw some feathers on there.
Totally.
And call it a day. That's all right. Makes our job a little bit easier.
Sure.
Poles. So this is wands, right?
Wands. Yeah, cool. I like the fact that it's just a pole. That's interesting.
The Queen of Poles. This one almost looks like a mop.
Right.
Knight of Poles. Another one of my favorite characters in this movie. They kind of are like a Punch and Judy type of characters in the movie, at least.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, the little guy, and they use this to like bite the guy that's hanging upside down. They're like sticking him with these little naked homunculi with teeth.
Right. Got it.
Ace of Poles. Little mushrooms growing out of the wall there. All right, and then you got to phone it in. At least they're consistent with how they phone it in, so that's fine.
They do have some different ideas for the poles, though. It's not too bad. Okay, so Junk, King of Junk. Oh, Earth. Oh, that's cool. That's a good idea.
So what is junk?
So it would be junk. So it'd be like Earth or coins or pentacles or discs in some decks. So so junk and Earth, I could see why that goes together.
The Queen of Junk. Oh, I forgot all about this character. She was really cool too, man.
Totally.
The Knight of Junk. I'm actually struggling a little bit about what this one is a specific reference to in the movie.
Right. Yeah. Same here.
Some of the comments. I do have the Garbage Pail Tarot deck too. We'll get into that one some other time. The Ace of Junk, just like a bowl strapped to a bone.
Right.
And then okay, so shields, right?
Yep.
All right,
and they're breaking it up
a little bit. All right, what is this? Is literally
different
just
objects.
All right, keys and oh man, this is where it should have started, I guess. So maybe I swapped them up when I went in here. And the Fool, I guess, being female seems somewhat remarkable.
That's different. A guy? That's different. It's generally a guy. I'll say that he usually, or sometimes he's an effeminate guy. So that's kind of not uncommon. But yeah, kind of traditional here.
No she's dog, on her journey. There should be like a dog nipping at her feet, right?
Yeah, there should be a dog. I agree with that for sure. But she's moving, she's walking. Oftentimes, especially in the classic decks, the Fool is literally the only person in the major arcana that's walking. Everyone else is standing or throned or something else. Oftentimes too, the Fool is like, it looks like they're going to walk off a cliff or something like that. But the cliff that she's about to walk off of kind of symbolically is just the journey that she's starting in the labyrinth itself, I would say. Doesn't know what she's getting into.
So here's David Bowie finally as the magician.
Oh, right. Oh, that makes sense. Right. Okay. So one hand up, one hand down below. Usually the magician has like a table with the elemental correspondences, objects, before him. It's a symbolic table of elements, I like to say. It's a bit of a different take, but I could see why absolutely he would be the magician, of course.
And then we've just got a couple placeholders and then the High Priestess. Let me do some magic on my end. Speaking of magic.
Okay.
And then we'll take a look at this final card in the Labyrinth deck, which is up just barely. You can kind of see a glimpse of it. Let's try this one more time. There we go.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, interesting. Wow. Very, very different. So that's a woman, huh?
I guess so. I mean, we're
I
figuring
feel
out
like I see.
Labyrinth canon right now.
Right. I feel like I see two breasts there.
Yeah,
Usually,
yeah.
the high priestess is like the spiritual mother sort of thing. Obviously, a departure here, but that's okay.
So I think that was interesting. I think if you like the Labyrinth series, you probably get a lot more out of it than just blindly going into it. So yeah, if you were wondering, that was the Labyrinth tarot deck,
Right.
or by
Nice.
Brian Frow. It didn't actually come with any other things other than the cards themselves.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next one. This one's actually really cool looking from the outset. And I don't know if these are like the official or like the knockoffs or what, but these are just the ones that I've got. So, and the reason I say that, I'll show you once I open it. This is Todd Alcott's horror tarot. And the reason I say I'm not 100% sure if these are like the legit, because the back almost looks like they phoned it in. It just says
Mm,
horror tarot a bunch of times, like the
yeah.
back of like a trading card. So I don't know. But the fronts look decent enough. So, and that's all that we really care about anyways.
Okay, so I'm always curious whenever it's like someone's name presents whatever. I'm like, okay, so who is this person? So do you
I
know who
looked
this
him up.
guy
He
is?
removed himself from Twitter. He's one of those people that's like, oh, it's filled with ideology. I'm out of here. But he's
Huh.
got a few other tarot decks, so it's kind of like a thing that this Todd Alcott guy does.
Okay, gotcha. Right. Okay, so everyone is supposed to look like a little like a movie cover or a movie artwork. Key art.
Yeah, I don't know if we can read. I'll try and read it out loud here, but it says Horror Tarot presents Major Arcana deck, Zero the Full, a symbol of enthusiastic innocence. You are beginning a vast journey in life, but you are not afraid of the challenges before you because you live in the moment. So I guess it gives you
Mm,
like a whole little breakdown in English
wow.
for each one of these. And
Gotcha, right.
another girl, or at least a
That's true.
feminine man, wearing a nightgown, right?
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, I could see why he created it like that for sure.
The Magician. I don't know if this is a specific person, but it's definitely giving me
Mm,
some I don't know, Jack Parsons, or maybe even like the
yeah.
guy that wrote Magica Sexualis. Forgot his
Right,
name.
right, right. Yeah, so I mean, so four objects symbolizing the four elements, that's pretty classic. The fact that he's green's kind of interesting. The magician corresponds with Mercury. Mercury very much is related to green, specifically like emerald green and things like that. So I wonder if that's kind of what he was going for here.
And this one says the Magician is a symbol of manifestation and unlimited potential. He knows all and sees all. He's resourceful and pure, or he's a fraud and a charlatan. Proceed with caution. That's a pretty wide spectrum. If someone's like, "Hey, that guy totally trustworthy," he might also kind of be a con artist, but it's one of the two.
Right, right.
The High
Okay, gotcha.
Priestess.
Oh,
There's that
cool. I like the
crescent moon.
pomegranate. That's interesting.
Why do you like the pomegranate?
Pomegranate symbolism is pretty fascinating. I really fell in love with it when I went to Granada in Spain, and Granada is means pomegranate.
Hmm.
And Granada, there's pomegranate artwork all over the place, and you can actually get like pomegranate like ice cream and juices and like all sorts of stuff. And in the High Priestess, though, you will see a banner behind the High Priestess. She's generally in front of two pillars with this banner in the middle, and there's pomegranates on the banner, and the pomegranates are actually placed as the Kabbalistic tree of life. Basically, there's 10 of them, so the 10 Sephiroth. So the fact that he included the pomegranate, I think, is a nice nod to that.
The Empress as like this
Ooh,
Black Widow, I guess.
that's interesting too. I mean, so to me, have you ever seen what's the movie called Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's like maybe an alien. You're not really sure.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like she's almost like the Black Widow that like brings man into like her web basically, and kind of ensnares these guys or whatever. And symbolically the woman is kind of she's almost a trapper. You can almost say like yoni symbolism is almost kind of related to that. Man is more so the seeker, and is going to like travel and look for what he wants or whatever. And woman is more of a trapper that way. And so she's so magnetic, things come to her. And so I kind of see the symbolism there with spiders and kind of bringing in their mates, and then even like maybe cutting their heads off or whatever, something along those lines. But generally the Empress is sitting like in a chair. And so she's more of like the terrestrial mother in contrast to like the spiritual mother. And she also too, it looks like she's holding a pomegranate, right?
Oh, it is, isn't it? It absolutely is a pomegranate. Yeah, you can see because it's got the little crown on top. I don't know how easy it is to see, but it's definitely there.
So there's a lot of fertility, feminine symbolism with the pomegranate. Some people have said, you've probably heard this before, but some people think that the original fruit of the Garden of Eden was a pomegranate, maybe not an apple. For what
is this? I'm just making blind leaps here, but is it the pomegranate a symbol of abundance and fertility because it's just filled with seeds more so than like an apple is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, exactly.
See, we got the Emperor. The ultimate authority rests with him.
Interesting. I mean, the thing that comes to mind here is that fleur-de-lis on top of that wand or scepter or whatever it is, and that's pretty classic for the Emperor to be holding that. So that's nice. That's a nice addition there.
Oh, this one's just cool looking. It's got like an MK Ultra vibes to it.
Yeah.
Right. He sees through this material world and into your very soul.
Right, that's cool. I mean, I like it. And so they're obviously playing into a pope-like figure being sinister or demonic or what have you.
This is why I think it might be knockoff. You can kind of see it gets like cropped at the very bottom here, but it says a symbol of tradition, conformity, power structure, religion, formal doctrines, also known as the teacher or pope.
Right. Yeah, interesting. I mean, the eyes, I don't know if I have anything to say regarding the eyes, but they're obviously highlighting it here.
The lovers. This is kind of cool. It's like, I don't know if that's supposed to be King Kong or like a robot King Kong or what. There's a lot going on this one.
Right, there is a lot going on actually. The lovers corresponds with Gemini, and which is an air sign, and so the fact that there's a plane is kind of curious. Gemini as well, right? It's like two pillars, the twins. So the legs kind of remind me of that a little bit. It's also not uncommon for there to be like a central mountain in the background in the lovers card, and then you have that volcano back there.
Any thoughts on the plane?
Yeah, just the air symbolism, I would say, to me kind of comes to mind. So I'm thinking maybe it's alluding to that.
See, the chariot. Oh, this is cool. It's just like like a possessed car or something.
Right. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Death Proof or something. That makes sense.
Drives at night under a crescent moon, no hands on the wheel. He steers by force of will.
There you go. That's cool. The fact that they're actually referencing the moon, because the chariot card is ruled by Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. So lunar symbolism is a huge part of chariot card symbolism. And so of course the car is interfaces with the chariot. I would actually say, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, I think you can almost make the case that the modern chariot in like hyper modernity in the tech sort of age that we live in is actually the office chair. I think the office chair symbolically is kind of like a chariot in some ways.
Okay, no, I can see you there, man. Yeah, especially you can have races with office chairs. I've seen it done before.
Right, and also, it's kind of funny. I mean, gaming chairs look like they're kind of like they look like they're inspired by fast cars and stuff.
They absolutely do. Yeah, they look like race car seats now, like carbon fiber.
Exactly.
Strength. A contest between the most powerful, most terrifying creature alive and a lion. I like that. Like the human is the most terrifying creature alive.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. Classic strength card, right, is the woman taming the lion. So that makes sense here. It would make sense that it perhaps is taking place in Africa or something like that for sure. And so I like it. Yeah. This makes a lot of sense.
The Hermit. The ninth card. Oh, let's see. This one says, stands alone on top of a mountain, which symbolizes spiritual mastery, growth, accomplishment. He has chosen this path of self-discovery, and as a result, has reached a heightened state of awareness of himself and the world he lives in.
Interesting. Yeah. So A little bit of a departure because generally the hermit is depicted at night holding that lantern, right? But it's like he ascended the mountain. As you're just reading, the mountain is symbolic of like transformation and things like that. One of the things I'll just add that I think is really fascinating is depending on the culture, some ancient cultures believe that the point of transformation on the mountain was the top of the mountain, the peak of the mountain. But previous to that, my understanding is the primordial understanding of mountain as it relates to transformation has to do with the cave within the mountain. And the hermit card actually relates to cave symbolism as well, because it's all about, going within and that inner journey and everything else. But yeah, absolutely. However you put it, the hermit on top or within the mountain itself, it's appropriate.
Now, a question about that hermit, because obviously from like the standpoint of the hermit in the tarot deck, where he's this guy that's reaching all this enlightenment, but the hermit now and like outside of a tarot deck has a lot of negative connotation to it. Like a hermit is almost someone that sticks their head in the sand. Maybe they're a misanthrope. Maybe they've cut themselves off from society. And it's usually not seen in like a good way. It's not like, oh yeah, he's being a hermit and achieving self, enlightenment. It's more like, oh, that person's a hermit in that like they've just sort of removed themselves from participating in society.
Yep. Because in the modern world, my personal opinion is we live in a modern solarized sort of world, and the masses have priority over the individual. And so if you're seen as an individual in today's world, you are viewed exactly how you just mentioned it. And so hermetic type people who might go through these periods of isolation, or they want to be away from the masses and people, they're kind of viewed as being like antisocial, or they're serial killers or mass shooters or something along those lines.
The cool ones are, most of them are just boring. Right?
Right. That's hilarious.
Here you go. Wheel of Fortune. Pick a fate, any fate. And this one does look like a roulette wheel in a way. I'll pull it back up so we can talk about it. They don't want us to know. We don't want to unlock the secrets. And this one too, this kind of represents a fascinating deep dive that I'd like to even go deeper on at some point, but that we've sort of bastardized these tools of divination, and every single one has turned into like a vice, like a gambling vice, not just being obsessed with fortune telling, but now, laying out tarot cards or poker cards, that has to do with getting money. And then spinning something on a roulette wheel, where maybe that also was a form of divination sometime in the past. That's also just a way to make money. And almost every different it goes all the way to like tobacco, right? Even tobacco is used in some sort of divination practices, and now it's just a thing you get out of, a gas station or something.
Yeah, no, dude, you totally got it, man. I say that all the time. I was in Vegas, not last year, but the year before. And it was just interesting to me to see all the symbolism and to walk through these casinos and stuff like that. And then knowing the history, or at least what I do know, what little I know about the history of dice and cartomancy and divination and things like that. I'm like, these all started off as like divinatory sort of, things, practices, and they were used for spiritual matters and whatnot. And now it's used just for gambling purposes, to your point. So you're spot on.
Justice. She carries a sword and scales, but she doesn't want to kill you, just give you what you deserve. That's actually a really cool tagline.
I like that tagline. Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. Lady Justice, right? Once again, the sword.
And that's LA in the background, I assume.
Yeah, it could be. The sword interfaces with the scale in so many different ways. I didn't appreciate this until the last couple of years. I did a whole presentation on it where I get into it, called the axis of Libra being the scales. And it's just interesting to me how much symbolic overlap there is with the sword. So when someone's just holding a sword, like in that case there, arguably there's so many things you can bring up as it relates to the scales. And then of course she has the scales tattooed on her back there.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool way of going about it. The Hanged Man. All right, now we're back to form. Finally, we even got the halo with the moon silhouette in the background.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? I'm glad they kept that silhouette, keeping it a little traditional and everything else. Yeah, I like this one.
Also, I don't know if you know the background on the. I don't either, which is why I'm asking this. But they actually show the Hanged Man here in gallows, right? This is like a gallows here, but is the hanged man, is that symbolism of the hanged man ever actually denote someone that's like being put to death or like something horrible happening to them? Because it seems like an inefficient way to hang somebody would be like by their foot like that.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, what's it called when you have like a, is it called penance? Like a religious devotion, but you're like going through like a torturous sort of thing. So there's been lots of examples of this throughout history where people will do like really extreme acts, and this is how they're showing their devotion to their god or whatever, you know. And so I just kind of lump it in that camp in a way of you know, people sacrificing comfort, you know, but for the sake of spiritual growth and enlightenment and whatnot. There's a whole entire camp. I called it earlier the dying god myth, you know. And so I think Christ is like a great example of that. So whether someone's hanging like this from one foot or they're being crucified on a cross, I see that there's a lot of symbolic overlap between the two.
Does this imply the hanged man hanged himself upside down?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. That's how I view it.
Let's see. Death. This is the end and the beginning. I don't know. This is almost like a yearbook cover.
Yeah. Death comes for everyone. Usually the death card, death is riding a horse, something along those lines, or he has a scythe or whatever. This one's okay. I feel like this one's less inspired than some of the other, you know, pieces of art they created.
Can't all be bangers.
No.
Temperance. Your life is in the balance. And here we back to form again, the two cups pouring one into the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it says earth and water, pleasure and pain, life and death, everything in moderation. I don't know. Can you moderate death? Can you like just have a little bit?
Are they implying that she is like in an insane asylum or something like that?
I believe so. I mean, that's definitely some sort of like a medical onesie.
Right, right. Gotcha. I like the fact that they mentioned earth and water as well. And I've read that some people have made the argument that the chalice pouring from one to the other, it's almost like the heavens that basically rain upon earth, something like that. That there's a sort of an idea that our weather system, you know, above our head is like an alchemical lab, you know, in a way. And so, so it's just interesting that they decided to bring that forward. The fact that she's in an insane asylum, that's kind of curious too.
No,
I
she
mean,
didn't take
actually,
everything in moderation, I assume.
so this card relates to Sagittarius, and one of the myths that associates with Sagittarius, some people credit it for being the myth that is basically Sagittarian in nature, is Chiron. And Chiron has to do with our wounds. Chiron has to do with hidden wounds and things like that, invisible wounds. So Chiron is the wounded healer. And so so maybe they were kind of playing with that whole idea too. A wounded person, basically.
The devil, and this one says sex, obsession, addiction, enslavement, all the things that make life worth living.
Yeah, I like the fact that, yeah, I like this. The puppet strings and you know, the puppet master and everything else makes a lot of sense for sure. Oftentimes what you're gonna see in the devil card are that the two figures have like a rope or a chain around their neck, but it's actually loose. And what people think is that it's loose because symbolically it's saying that like you put yourself there, you can actually escape out of it, that you know you have the power to kind of escape your situation or better your situation or whatnot, if you're to own it basically, and not blame the devil necessarily for your predicament or what have you. But
Right.
yeah,
And
this is a good
it
idea.
says on the bottom here, your darkest impulses. So yeah, it's about you making the actual decision there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The tower. All right, there's no dude falling out of it. That's the first thing that I really noticed, but got the lightning strike, it's got maybe a fire, it's got a glow at least, but there's two people.
Right, right, yeah. So keeping a couple things sort of consistent, a tower-like sort of thing, two people, the lightning and everything else. I could see where they're going with it.
And is the tower usually imply something coming to an end in this way? Like
I
the
would say
tower,
that
the
maybe
tower's
that
still
is sort of the
falling?
biggest misstep here. Absolutely. You know, a lot of people refer to the tower card as being like fast change, rapid change, something coming to an end, something that's stable. that's now coming down. Just like the Tower of Babel. I think a lot of the Tower card symbolism has to do with the Tower of Babel and that whole storyline. And so to me, it is important if you're creating a deck that retains some of the classic symbolism to actually show the tower being destroyed versus it's currently intact right now, right? But you need to show it actually being destroyed. You need to show the people falling. Oftentimes, too, there's like a crown coming off the top of the tower. So I would say that that's kind of the misstep here. But then if that was the case, that you wouldn't be able to read the tower. Probably be too hard to read.
The star, and here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, we got more than 7 stars for sure.
Yeah. But she is like the lady of the stars, in many ways. So they're retaining some of that. I feel like aesthetically, this one's kind of a miss too. There's I don't know. There's a few things kind of going on here that I think it's okay, but I mean, who am I to judge?
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to judge these things. The moon,
right.
And this is clearly a werewolf astronaut. Let's see. It says a symbol of fear, anxiety, and dreams. The moon lights your path to higher understanding, but the light is weak, a pale reflection of the sun. Dark things to come. The surface under the light of the moon, like a crustacean emerging from the bottom of a pond.
Interesting. Yeah, usually you do see a lobster or a crab in the moon card in a pond coming from this little puddle pond thing.
They could have put a lobster in like an astronaut suit here if they really wanted to.
Right. This is kind of interesting to me too, because you usually do see 2 canines down below or 2 wolves or something howling at the moon. One of the things, once I heard it, I can't not think about it when I see something howling at the moon. And it's that does a dog howl at the moon or a wolf howl at the moon in reverence to the moon or warning us against the moon, that there's something malefic sort of going on? The other thing I'll say is that generally the moon card has those 2 towers, and there are several traditions out there that suggest that if you're going to astral travel to different places, you have to stop at the moon first, that the moon is sort of a gateway out to maybe go to other planes of existence that have a planetary correspondence or what have you. And then so when you return, you're going to come back through the moon. It's interesting that 2001 A Space Odyssey actually follows this exact same setup, that they go from the moon and then they're supposed to go all the way to Saturn. In the actual film, they go to Jupiter, or that's their goal, is to go to Jupiter. So the moon has been considered like a stepping stone or a gateway out of this place, and also is going to be the entrance point on your way back. This kind of relates to this idea of Cancer being related to the gateway of man, Capricorn being related to the gateway of the gods. And so I bring all this up because Dogman has been said to protect sort of the gateways to other places, that they protect portals and openings and things like that on Earth. And so that kind of is a curious sort of thing. I have no idea, obviously, if these people had any understanding of that, but that's what comes to mind.
All right, the moon's sort of like the pit stop where you go and stock up on combos and beef jerky on the way.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
The sun, it says some symbol of fun, vitality, positivity, success. Life is difficult, but not everything is sadness. The sun is a powerful force that compels us forward through time. Although I would just come out on like a branch here and say that if you're that close to the sun, like, you don't need to go forward anymore. Like you're about as close as you need to be to that sun.
Right. Interesting concept. I mean, they did bring about a sinister quality to the sun by showing just that child in the silhouette and looking at the sun, bringing in that sort of mystery. And so I think that's cool. I think it's a good idea. They're merging a couple of concepts together. It reminds me, there's a Danny Boyle movie where it's like a sci-fi movie. It kind of reminds me of what that movie is. The name is escaping me right now, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with the sun, but it's like a horror sci-fi film. So, but not a bad idea.
We got Judgment. I'm not even sure what the top of that's supposed to say.
Yeah. Huh.
Demonicist?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, generally an angel blowing the trumpet downward. Oftentimes the trumpet has a banner on it, and it's a cross. It's a red cross. And then people rising from their crypts. And so they're not showing that part, but
it's just randomly in German. Another evidence that it might be a bootleg. Yeah.
Yeah.
the world, the end is here, and it looks like with the Eye of Sauron or something in the middle of that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Huh. Yeah. I can see why they would choose something like this. Makes me wonder, obviously, well, if this were an actual world poster, like what's going on in the movie here.
Well, it says that the world can be a scary place, but all things have a natural cycle. As one thing grows in influence, another diminishes. The world contains all things. It cannot be reduced or expanded, only rearranged. All are welcome and have a place in this completion.
Interesting. I mean, generally the world card too does have it's in newer decks it can show the world. In older decks, there's always like a wreath around a woman, and so to me that is just like it's circular. It's not exactly a perfect circle or whatever. But just to really hit home the circular nature of the card, I think makes sense. Okay, I
This
was
is
wondering
cool.
actually if there was going to be minor cards here.
So here we got the Ace of Wands. A
Hmm.
spiritual gift, ideas flow towards you, so follow your passion, rich potential for growth, beware of pitfalls.
I like the fact that it's a severed hand too. That's a good idea.
And we got I'm not sure like
Two of Wands.
what of wands. Oh, because it says card number 2. Maybe that means
Yeah.
it's 2 of wands.
And usually Two of Wands, there is going to be two wands like just vertically like that. So he's in between them.
All right, 3 of wands. You can see the little 3, a little
Oh yeah.
Nosferatu sort of thing going on here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Have you seen the
I
new
like
one?
these are better. I have not yet. It's definitely on the list.
Me too. I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited though.
I do like that they didn't just phone in, just like now they're just 3 wands and 4 wands and 5 wands. So
Right.
okay, the 4 are in the back here on like a poster, I guess.
Yeah. I
Although
see.
he's also technically, I guess, a cane would be a wand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where the 5 is on this one, honestly.
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place. Right.
1, 2, 3, yeah, whatever. We're just gonna assume that there's 5 in there.
Usually the Five of Wands is kind of chaotic looking, so it fits into that.
They live nod. This of course
Nice.
that's got to be in there. Actually, it would be awesome if there was just like a straight up they live tarot deck. Although I've been looking for like conspiracy specific. There's not a lot out there. There's actually a gap in the market for like some very conspiracy centric tarot.
Right. Yeah, I believe it.
7. Yep, we got them poking. These could have been on fire too, like the flaming
Yeah.
torches that would have scared them.
Exactly.
Got kind of a
Oh, that's not a bad
sci-fi
idea.
for 8.
Yeah.
9. I
Oh,
like
okay.
that. Okay, yeah, the fence is made out of the 9
That's
poles.
clever.
10.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes sense too. Interesting. So
Okay.
they're leaning
Oh,
more
yeah.
on like established properties, it looks like, in the minor cards
You
here.
don't want to ask her what she's been doing with that wand. I've seen the movie. I know. I know where that thing's been.
Right. Okay, there you go, Jack.
The Knight of
All right.
Wands,
Queen
the
of
Queen of
Wands.
Wands. I'm not sure where
Mhm.
this comes from. I mean, it's obviously like a shrunken head of some kind, although I'm not sure what movie that's a reference to.
Right.
Okay, this has got to be Blackula,
I can see that.
the king. Okay, now we got into the cups. This one's cool. It looks like an old school sort of like horror book. Oh, all these
Mhm.
do. Okay, the cups look like little books.
There you go. That's a good idea.
This one I just noticed has
Like a caduceus looking thing.
yeah, Caduceus in the background.
That's pretty classic for that card, actually. Interesting.
3 of
I love
cups.
the fact I like the skulls as the chalices. It's a
And
great
these
idea.
ones too, they have I want to say that is Adam's Family and Munsters, maybe a reference. I'm not sure the one in the middle though. 4 of Cups, a little bit more. There's Candace Owens there thinking about the next post she's going to put on Twitter.
Right.
5 of Cups. Okay, now we're getting into like 90s, sort of like airport novels.
Yeah, right.
6 of Cups. Oh, where? This one's
But
interesting.
there's
Like,
only
where
one.
are the other 5? They've got to
Yeah,
be there
right.
somewhere.
Right.
Why do you think there's just 2 kids looking at a cup on this one?
I believe the 6 of cups, it's usually a boy giving his like sister like a vase of flowers.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the card. So I don't know. I mean, usually there's kids on it, but not all the time.
I think I'm detecting a pattern here. I think my camera just doesn't like it when it has to focus in and out rapidly. Let me just lock the focus and see if that fixes anything. Maybe that'll prevent it from getting kicked off.
Right.
7 of Cups. I'm not really sure where to go with this one either.
Okay, so usually the 7 of Cups, it's like a guy, and there's 7 cups in the sky, and each cup has like a different sort of thing going on with it. One, there's like a castle in it. There's another one that has like a monster in it. Another one has like treasure in it. Another one has like a woman. Another one has like a ghost or something. And so I see this as kind of like the things that haunt him, basically, or like 7 different directions or something along those lines. And so they're kind of just bringing all of that into just one main chalice, it looks like. So if you know the Rider-Waite version, it makes sense a little bit.
Got an 8 of Cups.
9
of Cups. I like that one. She's kind of looking like a bathtub or something.
Yeah.
10 of Cups, just some creepy old photo, a bunch of people on it. Here we've got the Page of Cups. What is that, like a koi fish? Yeah, there's a koi fish in her cup.
Right.
The Knight of Cups. Was that Stephen King, maybe? Who knows? Queen of Cups. King of Cups.
Yeah.
Oh, where are these gonna be cartoon? Oh yeah, these are comic book themed. All right, sweet.
That's a solid idea too.
Which is the air sign, right?
Yes.
Okay, I love this style so much.
Yeah, this makes sense. That's pretty classic. Generally, it's very similar. Sitting on a bench in front of the ocean, those cross swords.
And it says featuring indecision, dilemma, and potential risk. What is this one? This one features heartbreak, pain and sorrow, grief and anguish. How accurate are these? Do these really represent these things, these specific swords cards, or?
So far, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The Suit of Swords. This one is meditation, relaxation, and exhaustion. 4, 5. Okay, yeah, this one's a lot better because it actually pulls all this. We've got the symbolism of the decapitated head, brutal tale of victory and tradition.
Yeah, I like that one.
This one's kind of like a swamp monster feel to it. And this one says featuring transition, rite of passage, and an unburdening. And that does look like Kamala Harris. So that's the unburdening symbol.
Yeah, usually it's like I always see it as like a woman and her child leaving a situation. They're usually in a boat, and there's usually like a ferryman that's helping them get across a river or something like that. So that all checks out.
This is the 7 of Swords, and it says featuring deception, betrayal, and pretense. I'm not sure what she's got in her hand up here. It's like a piston or something, or like a flask.
Right.
And there's a guy under the table, I just noticed.
Right. Huh. I'm not sure what that's all about. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Reenacting Friday the 13th. Templar, I assume. And it says featuring isolation, abandonment, and restriction. And this is the 8 of Swords.
It's not unlike the dying god sort of thing, right? She put herself there, so she's forced to go through almost like a internal change or an internal dialogue or internal journey. She's blindfolded, so she can't see what's happening around her. But I always generally, when I see this card, I just think it's interesting that the tool that she needs to escape exists all around her, which is just a blade, right? So I think sometimes in a lot of ways when this card comes up, the solution to your problem might be much closer than you realize.
A little bit of victim blaming there, but I'm on board. Here's the 9 of Swords. This guy does not look unaware. He looks like the opposite of unaware. And this says featuring nightmares, debilitating fear, and crippling anxiety.
Wow. Yeah, that one's brutal, actually. Just the perspective of it.
All right, this guy is also pretty hyper aware of his situation. This is the Ten of Swords. Alarming Doom, another tale of tradition. And I don't know if you can see, but it says world's best dad on his mug there, which seems very specific. Like someone took the time to make sure that that was legible.
Right. Interesting.
Page of Swords, we just got a check, says curiosity, new ideas, and positive change. And then like I guess that's her brother down here, and she's about to stick a pin in him.
Right.
And there's a frog for some reason. I'm pretty sure that's a frog.
Oh yeah, it looks like a frog
on the chalkboard there.
Well, that was the only animal that I've ever dissected, like in school. I remember.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Like that's the dude that she's dissecting. Okay.
Yeah. Which the sword, that's what the sword is all about. It's like as it relates to the mind, our mind likes to sort of dissect things, put things into order, and label things and compartmentalize things and whatnot. So that's what the sword does.
And here's the guy that gets his head chopped off we saw a little bit earlier, featuring ambition, quick thinking, and a drive to succeed. Now, if we're looking at this, who are we? If I turn this card up and I'm trying to figure out where I'm at in life right now, am I the executioner or am I the guy that's about to be executed?
That's a perfect question, man. I think it's going to depend on your situation for sure. Sometimes you're going to feel like the guy with the sword, and sometimes you're going to feel like the guy who's down below. It's interesting to me. I've never seen a sword that has like two handles.
Right, it's got it's like a double broadsword.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is drum roll. No, I'm just kidding. Just turn the camera back on. The Queen of Swords, unbiased tale of independence, and
right,
she's totally stabbing. I can't tell if that's a guy or a girl. I'm gonna say a guy, just because
it looks like
of
a guy to me.
Upper body strength, but he did something to offend her, I assume.
I think so. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this one is cool. The King of Swords is actually an alien from another planet, and he's looking at like a little stick figure dude made out of swords. The guy his body is made out of swords, absorbing intellectual authority. So this is like a homunculus, right? This is pretty much a definition of a homunculus.
It's interesting to me that we do associate like aliens and ETs with science, and so there's even like in the Crowley deck, I think it's the Six of Swords. It's literally called just science, and so I don't know. It just kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Very odd. This body made out of swords.
Do aliens count as an air sign? Like, does outer space count as air and like wind, or is this like a different analogy?
You know, geez, dude, I think you can probably make that case. Yeah, I can't say I've spent too much time thinking about it. But air symbolism comes to mind. Water symbolism definitely comes to mind. I guess you can maybe make the case fire too. It doesn't seem like earth to me personally, but yeah, I think air makes a lot of sense.
Well, I guess saucers though, but that would be water more than anything. And the pentacles. Okay, this is an actual magazine cover from man, I can't remember the name of it. Strange Tales or something. Anyways, let's see. And we'll wrap up after this. We're doing our pentacles here. The Ace of Pentacles, and it looks like it's just some edgelord in middle school or high school's hand. Like they just found their first Marilyn Manson CD or whatever the equivalent is of that today.
Totally. I will say symbolically, pentacles, 5 points, 5 fingers, all that kind of stuff. Like that does line up. I mean, traditionally, the ace of any card has a hand on it, but the fact that the 5 comes through prominently like that makes sense.
Now, this is a deep rabbit hole / tangent. We can just graze by it very briefly, but there's lots of sort of thinking behind, is this evil because it's an inverted pentacle, like it's upside down versus right side up? But there is Christian iconography that is displayed as this upside down and everything. And then there's also, I believe it was Eliphas Levi. I never know how to say his name just because I've only seen it written before.
Yeah.
But that he was the one that actually said that it was evil, and then Aleister Crowley sort of came along and said, no, he doesn't know what he was talking about. It's actually not evil to turn it upside down. Is there a consensus of any kind on whether or not the star being right side up or upside down implies any sort of good or bad?
Right. I mean, personally, I don't think either of them are evil. It's just not how I sort of look at things. But with the pentacle pointing downward, it's drawing your eye downward. So it's drawing your eye towards things that are lower in nature. So it's drawing your eye to the earth, as an example. You will see this downward nature and a downward upside down pentacle on full display in like the Rider-Waite version of the Devil card. And I even made a post about it showing you all of the downward arrows, in the Devil card. And so it does bring to mind the lower nature sort of aspect of things. But I think you want to make friends with your lower nature and understand it so that you can transcend it and work with it, basically, instead of trying to denounce it or say that this is an evil part of who you are or whatever. But to me, actually, if you just rotate it a little bit, is it an upward pentacle the other way?
Well, either way, it doesn't really. Yeah. I guess if you're looking at it at your hand from that, yeah, it absolutely is upward from the perspective of your hand.
Yeah.
Crazy how much just 15 degrees can make.
Yeah, I know, right?
Here's the Two of Pentacles, and these ones are just regular right side up. And
interesting.
He's on the deck of the Titanic or something.
I like this one, actually. This is cool because generally what you're going to see is a guy juggling, kind of balancing two pentacles or two coins, and he's at the beach, and then there's these waves in the background. And so I like the fact that it's the same idea, except for he's on a boat, so that's kind of cool. And then oftentimes you do see like an infinity ribbon kind of like uniting the two pentacles or something.
That's subtle. I like it how they did it in that one.
Yeah, it's solid.
Here's the Three of Pentacles. We got to have the mad scientist, of course.
Oh, wow. This one's cool. Okay, so generally what you see, like in the Rider-Waite, you will see three men working within a cathedral, and they're actually working on a pillar. And so this pillar, to me, symbolically, I always think of what's referred to as like the world axis and everything, but the cathedral itself is like a house of God, but that's their project. So this card is sometimes called Works. And one figure, it's very clear, he's like the clear worker, the laborer. The other figure is basically the person who's more of like the spiritual sort of guide. And then the other one is like looking at a blueprint or something like that. So you have like mind, body, spirit, basically. One guy who's doing the physical labor, another guy who's doing more of the mental, intellectual blueprint sort of thing, making sure everything's coordinated. And then you have the other person who's actually like of the church. And so you have these three different figures sort of represented there. So you could see like the guy on the left kind of represents probably body or earth. The guy in the middle is probably, my guess would be like the spiritual authority, maybe, or the guy on the right is, but the guy on the right also might be, I don't know. I think you could probably figure out the sort of trinity or triune kind of relationship there. And then their project is this woman. Is this
it's weird science, basically.
Weird science. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And now one guy making four chicks. So this is very
right.
much more homunculus sort of referenced art. The Collector.
Interesting. Right. Yeah. Huh. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's kind of curious.
So woman, this is Fauci in the background.
So what I'm noticing, just saying, like in this example, I mean, woman being related to Earth and certainly Mother Earth, right? And so there is a huge correspondence with the feminine. Virgo, as an example, she's referred to as like the Queen of Heaven and the Queen of Earth, right? The Empress card, she's kind of like the Queen of Earth sort of thing. And so just that connection or correspondence there, I think is kind of curious.
All right, we're getting to it's getting light here. There's a few more left. The Five of Pentacles. It says, destitute, alone, and terrified for the future.
Right. Yeah. I mean, more feminine symbolism relating to Earth, so that's interesting. Didn't see that one coming.
And that one almost looks like subterranean too. I don't know if that has anything at all to do with this, but she's clearly in some sort of a downstairs basement.
Yeah, so this is the 5 of Pentacles. A lot of the 5 cards represent going through some sort of struggle or some sort of hurdle. And then the 6th card generally represents like overcoming that obstacle, whatever it is. And so there's usually like a clearing or a flow, a victorious sort of angle with the 6. And in my opinion, the reason why the 5 relates to that too is because 5 is in the middle of like a base 10 sequence. And so it's almost like the top of like it's almost like the top of a hill or something. It's like the thing that you have to go over in order to start descending. So it's kind of like the main struggle in like a storyline or something like that. So I could see why she's held captive.
And speaking of, yeah, the 6th one is now the pentacles are, instead of letting this light in, they turn into these coins that are being given to someone from whoever that is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's always that clearing or flow or whatever you want to say with the 6th card generally.
All right, we got the 7th here. Now we're this is almost too hot for YouTube, but she is wearing a top, so censors, she's fully clothed. Don't get crazy.
Right.
7 of Pentacles, look upon my works, and it's the hands. If you can't tell, the hands are the ones that have the pentacles on them.
Gotcha. It could be on my end. It hasn't quite refreshed for me yet, so I'm not able to see it.
Oh, let's see. Let me add it again. So
Again,
it's basically has a lady with these 3 feathers in her hair. She's holding
There
a
we go.
torch. In one
Yeah,
hand, she's kind of got like the rocker sign going on, the 2 horns.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, right. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like the feminine sort of thing here. I mean, I guess kind of throughout, that's kind of like a pulpy sort of thing too. Either like women being held captive or being like the victim of something or being kind of like the badass or like something along those lines. So I feel like this deck is playing into that.
That seems pretty occult. It's a pretty occult
Yeah,
theme, is to like
it
have
is.
the girl boss. The girl boss might have come originally from occult more than from pop culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
We've got the
Okay.
apprentice, 8 of Pentacles as the apprentice, and they are he's getting his 8th head to put inside of one of these little glass jars.
Right. Oh, yeah. So generally, this card in some decks, it can represent like work, doing work, but like kind of protecting your assets and things like that. Like in the Crowley deck, there's 8 pentacles on a tree, but the branches of the tree are kind of cradling each pentacle, kind of protecting someone's resources or whatever. And so usually like in the Rider Waite deck, it's a guy making pentacles and he's sitting on a bench, and it represents kind of like a slow and steady sort of work ethic in a lot of ways. And so this is his version of that.
Yeah, keep at it, guy. You're almost
Keep
there.
at it.
You
Yeah,
almost got all 8. Here's the 9, and this is, I mean, take your pick, but I guess Isis.
Yeah, totally. Especially with the wings on kind of coming from her head, kind of remind me of that for sure. 9 of Pentacles in the lap of luxury. Ooh, I kind of like this idea here of just kind of the spirits coming from that little the bowl or whatever.
The luxury of dead spirits coming out of your dinnerware. Here we go. The 10 of Pentacles. The gang's all here.
Right. Wow, interesting.
Oh.
There usually is like a multiple figures in the 10 of Pentacles that I've noticed. So usually, if I'm not mistaken, it's like an old man in the foreground, and then there's like 2 dogs. He's petting a dog or 2.
There's a dog
And
there.
then, oh, right, there you go. Yeah, and then usually just outside of like his home or whatever, there's a couple, and they usually have like a child or whatever. So there's like multiple figures. I always think of with the 10 of Pentacles, like generational knowledge or generational wealth, like things handed down through the generations, something along those lines. So I don't know if that's what they're getting at here, but
We've got the page, manifestation of an abundant harvest, and you can kind of see this like cornucopia of fruits and vegetables in the background, kind of like on top of her skirt, as if she were the table.
right. Yeah, that's a good call.
All right, we've got the Knight of Pentacles. He's just a charmer. She can't. She's not making eye contact because she just wants him for his money. She doesn't really want to remind herself what he actually looks like. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yep.
The queen, and I guess she's wearing a bat for a mask.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And then here's the last one, the King of Pentacles, and he's kind of got like a Scarface thing going on.
Right. Right.
The man
Yeah.
who has
The man has everything. Yep.
And you
totally.
got the little bull, the bull of Wall Street down here.
Right. 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 Which is the Taurus is an Earth sign, right? That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, usually the King of Pentacles, he he has wealth. He has resources at his disposal and things like that.
Any idea what is in this painting back here?
Nah, I mean, it looks almost like a tower on something. Yeah. But, I mean, to me, symbolically, too, the man in the high tower, the man at the top of the skyscraper, like he's the boss, maybe. Maybe that's even he's up top at the very tippy top of everything there.
Oh, I like that. It's like a little "You Are Here" map. It's like he's in the penthouse.
Yeah, exactly. That's my opinion. I don't know.
Well, I think this one gave us a lot more to talk about because we could actually go into each of the different suits and they all represented things that, again, like you don't get as much from this. You don't get as much to like pick apart from it.
Exactly.
So yeah, for anyone that was watching, that last one was this Todd Alcott's Horror Tarot. And the first one we looked at was the Labyrinth Tarot. And maybe when I get my camera operating better, we can look into the totally unofficial Adventure Time Tarot deck. I've got like another 20 or 30 of these freaking things, so we can keep this going as long as Mario's interested and as long as you guys are interested. I appreciate you hanging out with us and going through all these tarot decks. And honestly, thank you so much, Mario, man. Like, I wouldn't get anything out of these aside from just reading the little bits of the end. But like, for example, when you were breaking down like the suit of swords and how like she's carrying like a baby, or the example where she's tied up on like surrounded, she's blindfolded, she doesn't realize that the thing that she's looking for is literally surrounding her. Like, that's the cool kind of insight that I don't even know if you find it in the little pamphlets to like help you break down the cards. This is stuff you got to have like a master level symbolic studies genius like Mario here to kind of guide you.
Well, dude, it helps that I do tarot readings all the time for people. And so because of that,
plug it, dude. Plug it. Where can people go and get a tarot reading directly from the master?
Oh, yeah, no, of course. Symbolicstudies.com. You guys can book a tarot reading through my site. You guys can also DM me on Instagram or whatever other platform you might be on that I'm on as well. And I am available for that. I do chart reading now. That's something that's kind of new for me. So I'm making that available by request. I'll probably officially announce it as like a true real deal offering here, within the next couple of months. But I'm actually getting a lot out of that. And so I've studied astrology and the tarot for so long now that I have a different approach to, decoding people's charts and things like that. And it's kind of a little more old school too. It's almost like, I think ancient peoples, they weren't talking about astrology the same way we kind of talk about astrology. It was more folky, there was more like simple storylines and things like that. And so I'm trying to bring kind of a different take or a different spin with how I do it. And of course, I've got a Patreon, patreon.com/symbolic studies. And so I'm producing actually a series right now on the major arcana. So right now I'm 10 cards deep. And so there's literally 10 cards over 10 hours I've decoded, and so if you really want to deep dive on the major arcana, then I think that's a good place to start. But yeah, man, this was great. We'll definitely do it again. And I appreciate the invite. And you're really sharp too, dude. You bring things to the table, man, that I'm not necessarily thinking about as well. So it's a good collaboration here.
That's gracious of you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You're helping me get some extra street cred too. And just a parting question. It might sound silly, but I'm genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that like in older times and maybe in like ancient times that people use this kind of technology, I'll call tarot deck technology, I guess by some definitions, but it was used differently. Has it always been like a pickup line? Do you think that even if you wind back the clock like 1,000 years, there was someone like, "Hey, girl, I'm a Gemini," or like, "Hey, what's your sign?" Do you think that was always, or was there a point in time when that would have been seen crass, like not offensive to the person you're talking to, but like, are you offending the gods or like the astrological entities by using it as like a pickup line?
That's hilarious, man. I mean, because honestly, I could see both sides. It probably depends on how far back we're going, but women just in general, I see them as being more so innately, inherently understanding of the mysteries than man is. I think man has to go more out of his way to want to understand these sorts of things and whatever. And so I could see why it would be a pickup line, but I also can see why it would be, not the most appropriate thing to do. That's really funny though. I'm going to think about that. And maybe I'll have to get back to you, but I love the question.
Yeah, please do. Because I almost see it fitting in the same box as like, you're doing what with dice and cards and roulette wheels? What, like people are losing their homes over like betting money? Like you've kind of turned this into like a game of prostitution in a way. How much more profane can we get with like a roulette wheel? Like, is there something even worse that we can use it for, or have we already hit rock bottom? And I guess that's the same thing with like pickup lines, like, "Hey girl," right?
Totally.
Like, how much more can you sort of like make it profane?
I know, man. Yeah, that's funny. That's actually really interesting that you're even just bringing this up in general, because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And I'm reading authors from like the 20s and 30s and 40s talking about the modern world and how they don't know how we can fall too much further. Like they thought that we were at the very end of this great dark age and everything else. And I'm like, wow, they were talking about this like 100 years ago. If they only saw what the world was like now, their minds would be completely blown.
I can even one up that, because I've been working on translating a book from the 1800s by Adam Weishaupt called The Lamp of Diogenes, and that is like the premise of his entire like 300-page book, and he keeps quoting like Seneca and all of these like ancient like Roman poets and writers, and it's the exact same theme. It's basically like saying that every generation is worse than the last. Like how many turtles can we go through until it's just so corrupt that there's nothing left anymore? So maybe this is just like an old man shakes fist at sky moment and everyone goes through it. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I think so. I've been thinking about that too, because I've been having conversations with my dad, and he's kind of saying some of the stuff as he's getting more involved in his church and things like that. He's bringing this to the table.
Kids these days.
Yeah. Exactly. Awesome, man. Well, right on. Well, thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks again, man. Links down below. Go and follow Mario and Symbolic Studies and all the places. And until next time, man, I really appreciate you coming along. I appreciate everyone in the chat. I swear, if I get a camera working and cooperating better, I'll show more comments and stuff. So tune in for the next one, guys. Mario, see you, man. Thanks again for your time, brother.
Yep, you got it. All right. See ya. Take care.
Peace, guys.
Paranoid. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out. Nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blood smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when the beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal. You're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal. You're welcome. Yet they doing it still. You're welcome.